Today, it's Edwin's Monday evening property rant. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. It's a soggy Monday evening, but I've got an unsoggy Edwin here. Hi Edwin, how you doing?
We're keeping dry, Martin, but no surprises here. The surprises with the government. Wages are going to go backwards for the next 2 years, apparently.
Yeah. No, it is pretty amazing, isn't it? That they basically confirm wages will be going backwards. They've also confirmed that growth will be much lower and inflation will be a lot higher for a lot longer. So all good news so far, huh?
Yeah, eggs. I'm going to be selling them for $5 a pop at the end of the year. So they will be autographed by Jose El Rooster. So $5. $5 an egg. Look, I reckon they got the free-range eggs at the shops. In some places, I'm seeing them at $12, $13 a dozen. So I reckon by the end of the year, they could be 24. So I'm not far off the mark. I mean, what more? You're going to get it autographed by Jose El Rooster. Come on.
Well, that's pretty good. I mean, you at least you know where the source is.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. And they look grain-fed. It's all natural up here, and they get lots of worms around the place. But Martin, I want to ask you a question: are you in or are you out?
Or shall I just shake it all about?
Well, but we're not talking about politics there, Martin, or anything else, with Boris Johnson. But the thing is, that's a general comment that auctioneers ask, and I tell you what, I'll be hearing that over and over again over the weekend. It was pandemonium out there at the open house inspections, and you hear the agents and auctioneers shouting, "Are you in or are you out?" The excitement's back in the game, Martin. I mean, I've got a new acronym, fungal. And I don't know whether you can work that out. What do you think it is? Fungal.
How do you spell it?
FONGAL.
Fear of not getting something or other.
Fear of not getting a loan. There you go.
Yes.
You're a very smart man. And when fungal meets fungo, it really is. The whole property market has been shaking all about. It's crazy. Some of the stuff that I saw on the weekend, but over and over again, as you and I say, it's these stupid government policies that have been put out, and that's what's taking the market to an extent. And it's in the price bracket that the first home buyers, the young families, the young people that want to get into the market, want to secure something. The good old Aussie dream, it's just becoming a nightmare as we move forward. But we're going to discuss that and open that up a little bit more later on as to why and how we see it. But it's the activity out there on the weekend was an eye opener.
Yeah, very interesting, Edwin. And of course, we know that the government's going to chuck various extra stimulus packages into the first home buyer sector. And we know that Victorian government has just upped the ante on their stimulus measures for first time buyers as well. More equity share, this and that and the other. They're all throwing, more petrol on the property price fire, despite the fact that the RBA has now admitted through a FOI that in fact their modelling was wrong, and rather than no falls, they're now saying this could be the most significant falls for many, many years in terms of property prices. So very interesting to see all of this happening before our very eyes.
Look, it is, and even the WeChat Chatterers have got a story for us as well that reflects and puts all this into. I thought it was a great way of representing a great representation of the property. And the question is, Mike, for you, from the WeChat Chatterers, how do you get to pay $100 for a $10 chicken?
Well, the answer is carefully, I think, isn't it?
And how is paying $100 for a chicken reflective of the the property market at the moment? We're also going to talk a little bit about that with what our WeChat Chatterers have to say.
Yeah, no, it makes me wonder what on earth is going on in this this world of ours. When what is the value or price of anything, Edwin? That's the question. What is the value or price of anything?
Well, look, if you a bit of spit and polish, and it's worth a lot more than before you spat on it, I guess. So it's
it rather depends on the quality of spit, I suspect.
Exactly. If it comes from a personality, it'd be even worth a hell of a lot more. But it's all about these incentives. But look, let's just quickly talk about the WeChat chatters, what they have to say, and how they're looking at things. First and foremost, what can I say? Chatters were right. A couple of weeks ago, they said that Z will reign forever. El Supremo Emperor forever. That's it. He's in, and he's even at the last minute, he was kicking out his predecessors or anybody that had any inkling of standing in his way. I don't know whether you saw that video that was shared on the news.
Yeah, tap on the shoulder to the previous one and sort of wheeled him out. And it's interesting, of course, that the new sort of top people are all basically supporters of Xi over anything else. So never mind whether they've got the capability to do things. So one of the most senior people who actually, I think, stuffed up some of the COVID restrictions earlier on is now responsible for the whole of the economy.
Oh, look, it's the same. It's the same chapter and verse all around the world, isn't it? With all the political parties, just about all the political parties that are in power, or trying to get into power, or trying to lead us into the direction of, whether you believe it or not, whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, into this one world order, or could it be a global reset, an economic, monetary reset, whatever you want to call it. It's just we're there are wolves in sheep's clothing that are trying to lead the rest of us, and unfortunately, we thought we paid for a political party, or we voted for a political party to come in to look after the people, and as what we're seeing already with those in power here in Australia, it's anything but. But look, you and I've been talking about it for a long time, that the libs and the labs are the left and the right wing of the same vulture. So, but what do you know? But all politics aside, Martin, do you want to listen to the story as to how to get $100 for a $10 chicken?
Yeah, we definitely need to do that, because you've piqued my interest. What's the story, Edwin? What's the story?
And it also includes the fish. So what came first, the fish or the chicken? Look, I've also reached out to Jose Arista to give a commentary. I don't know. So what do you think about chickens being sold for $100 a pop? Any comments, Jose? You like the idea?
And I think what we should do is we should use that cry for introducing future, even worse than the conspiracy theory, right? It's just perfect.
Yeah, what's wackier than a conspiracy theory? Okay, here's the story, Martin. How do you get $100 for a $10 chicken? So the story goes from a WeChat chatters over in China, is that there was a new fishing pond or fishing park open up in one of the rural areas of China, and there was a big sign out along this new park that had opened up. Fishing, come and fish here for $100, and if you don't catch a fish, you'll get a chicken. So nothing to lose. So a lot of people started attending this park. This novel idea, interesting. Obviously, everybody's a winner, so they thought. And within a few months, the fishing farm or park disappeared. So the locals went to, not the locals, but the tourists that were attracted by all this, went to a local agency and said, "Hey, look, what's going on? This fishing park opened up, and this, that, the other, and now it's closed. What happened?" And he said, "Well, he ran out of chickens." What do you mean he ran out of chickens? And what the background is, Martin, is this chicken farmer basically when the pandemic and everything, and the lockdowns happening over in China, and eggs and everything were just going to waste. He had thousands of chickens, and he didn't know what to do with them. It was costing them more to keep them than to it was costing more to keep them than anything else. So he came up with this brilliant idea. So he dug a massive, big pond in part of his farm area, and dressed it up like a barbecue area, and put up the sign, and that's it. He couldn't get rid of the chickens for anywhere close to $10, and now he was basically getting $100 a chicken because it would cost the families $100 to come in and fish. Most people didn't catch any fish, but they still went away happy because they went home with with a chicken. So,
were there any fish in the pond, or was it purely?
He did put, but you know how it goes. It's not natural.
Just put a couple in.
Yeah, right. Put a few in, and see what happens. Probably got some,
couple of goldfish.
Yeah, who knows?
But it's very entrepreneurial, right? So suddenly a $10 chicken was $100, and what's interesting about that story is, of course, that the people who came in went away happy because they thought they got a bargain.
Yeah, and so are the first-home buyers here in Australia. They're getting the same thing. So that is the moral of the story. Yeah, you put out something new and shiny, and it'll attract all sorts of curiosity, and eventually, the people that put it out, which are predominantly the developers in cahoots with the governments, they walk out with a load of money. So he walked out with a lot more money than what he would have got to sell the farm as it is, as an ongoing concern, because it was basically useless. So what's happening? What is this? So now, bringing it to what the local WeChat chatters are saying about this story, because this came out in the in the mainland Chinese groups, and obviously the investor groups here share that story around as well and start talking about it. This is the whole thing. What they're saying, the local WeChat chatters are saying, see, this is what's happening now here in Australia. The government and the developers are basically distracting the people from the first-time buyers and people who want to get into the market, or this, the people that they should be helping. They're mainly distracting them by offering the people these frivolous incentives, grants, shared equity schemes and scams and everything else, and the people are being distracted. Where they should be. On the other side of the coin, they should be looking at established homes, like I've been talking about for so many years, about looking into more established areas that are close to the newly subdivided areas, because the land generally is about 50% smaller and houses lose value over time. Hence the reason why there's a depreciation value. We call it depreciation with regards to the investors that get into new property to depreciate the value of the home. So this is what the local chatters are saying, and in turn, what did I see on the weekend, Martin? I saw a hell of a lot of Asian, or predominantly what I would consider to be Chinese Asian investors at the open for inspections.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that while the first home buyers are being misdirected to look over there, they're sneaking in behind and buying stuff up.
Yeah, because the government's actually distracting the first home buyers with all this new fanciful gifts and trinkets. Yeah, and that's what they are. It's really a trinket. And is it a scheme, or is it really a scam? But at the end of the day, the winners are the government, and because they look good in the eyes of the rest of the population that aren't necessarily trying to buy a house. They say, oh, look at them, the government's a great government. They're trying to help our young people get into a home. So let's vote for them back in next time around. And the developers are the winners for sure, because they are, you can just hear the noise in their heads, ka-ching, as the dollar signs go past their eyes, because they're going to be selling, newly developed residential properties where there's no infrastructure, where in low-lying areas where it typically a floodplain or a reconstituted or reclaimed marsh areas like you get in Queensland and so forth, and areas where people generally wouldn't go, and and ends up being what would you call, unfortunately, ends up being squalors and ends up being what we call in South America favelas or shanty towns. Similar, because there is no real infrastructure. There's a great need for any family support or the like, and people are still having to commute a lot further to go to work, because with this greater push of trying to get people back into the office environment, sooner than later that's where they're going to find themselves in the position living so far away, and and spending a hell of a lot more, and thinking at the beginning that they got a great deal to get into the market. So with the destruction, the local WeChat chatterers are saying, look, it's time to jump in before the local Aussies wake up.
Yeah, and in fact, you showed a video, and we'll play it now, of a property that was somewhere out west, right, with a huge amount of interest.
Being on the market for 150 days, 1.6 mil at the beginning of the campaign was a bit of an ask, and even more so of an ask now, particularly when the property backs onto the main road, all that traffic noise. The guide's been revised to 1.4, but even then I think they're going to push it, considering it's a battle axe. Having said that, there's about 5 Asian groups of people, 3 of which are investors. Yeah, look, the interest there was rather, was rather uncanny, because most of the people that were inspecting the property, it was a property that was originally put out to the market at around the 1.6 million, and that was you found out about the guide when you called the agency or you went to the open house, and then it got dropped and the ad was published live at with a range of with a guide of 1.4. So obviously investors are feeling that now's the time to get back in. Now's the time to get in, and this is what the WeChat chatterers have been saying for a while now, as we've been discussing it on the show. And now they're starting to look, they're starting to go out, and now that they're seeing how the guides or the asking prices are dropping, they feel it's time to start doing the groundwork and see what's available, and it becomes attractive to somebody that needs to put that money into an investment and not keep it in the bank. Because as I say, the WeChat chatters, the investors, the most they'll be borrowing is about 40%, if that, maximum probably 50% LVR. In most cases, they're really coming in with money in the bank scenario to buy the properties, and they'll squeeze the agents down on what we would consider as straight out deal. In other words, no bank finance deal. So this is what's happening, and it's in the regions where the first home buyers would otherwise come in, and in the price point where the first home buyers would otherwise come in. So really, I feel that it's gonna cushion that market for a little bit longer, if listings on market don't rise rapidly over the next 2 months.
Yeah, and just reflect on this. The Productivity Commission recently published a report about housing and housing incentives, and they drew the conclusion that all of these first-time buyer incentives were a complete disaster, because basically it was not actually helping. It was lifting home prices. It was pulling people into the market who were already prepared to go into the market, and didn't really address homelessness or community housing, all of the stuff. So they said you should redirect all of that to a different area. And what is everybody doing, both at the state and federal level? They're throwing more petrol on the fire. They're just doing more and more the same. And in fact, it's interesting because there's an article in the AFR which said that Daniel Andrews will pay a quarter of your next house price. Isn't that great for somebody? Well, maybe not.
Look, it is rather interesting. It is rather interesting when I put out that tweet also in that with that article that we're going to discuss tonight, and we'll look at the mathematics, at the end of this, discussing this article. But the interesting thing there, and I think one of the things that the Patrick, the point that he misses, is if you do a quick search of the properties for sale in Skye, in the southeast region of Victoria, you find that the average homes for sale there, Martin, are between 750 to 800,000. And these poor bastards, just paid 901,000 for a home to get into the market. I mean, this is the stupidity. I mean, it's right in your face, and they don't see it. It just takes a couple of minutes to bring up the for sale listings in that suburb, and you see what the average sales price is for new homes that are being put on the market. So, okay, that some may argue I didn't go into the full detail as to what property this family that they discuss in the article what bought, how big the parcel of land is, but on average, I think it's a raw deal. But it's a reflection of what is going to happen, where people are just really going to be paying, as I say, where they're going to be paying over the odds just to get into the market, because they've got this fear of missing out all of a sudden, and they want to take the prize chicken home, so they can say to their family, yeah, no, I didn't catch any fish, but hey, look, I got a chicken, but yeah, you paid $100 for a $10 chicken. Oh, well, but I got a chicken.
Yeah, and look at the maths that you did there. So you got 25% from the Vic government, right? You get 40% from the federal government if you wait a bit, 5% deposit and 3% bank funding. Well, what's possibly wrong with that? Could be a problem if prices slide a bit, huh?
Well, it could be a problem if prices slide a bit. The other thing is who is going to get holding the bag? Who's going to be holding the bag at the end of the day? The taxpayer.
Yeah, funny that. Yeah,
the taxpayers you and I are going to be holding the bag for all these people. Look, and if we do get to the point, if and when we do get to the point of mortgagee, mass mortgagee sales in these new subdivisions, where I believe that's where they will come about in your Schofields, your Marsden Parks, your southern regions, sub developments beyond between Liverpool and Campbelltown and so forth. You're going to see a lot of this because they're all the same. They're all the same shit. They're all built by the same developers, built with the same dodgy methods and cheap material, and they go up within 1 week to the next, so to speak. And it's there's anything that you could think of that could go wrong with a lot of these cookie cutter project homes that go up, will go wrong. So so when you look at the maths, it's rather interesting when I sort of start pondering and thinking in my crazy head as to who's really going to be who's the loser in all this. Apart from the first-time buyer, then I think the next in line is the taxpayer.
Yep. And the winners, of course, are the developers.
Oh, of course, they win.
And funnily enough, the people who actually get all the stamp duty fees and everything else, and all the development fees, you can see them. They're trying to turn the handle on the economy, so it helps to take the economy along. But the trouble is that this could easily come unglued. And as I said earlier on, of course, the RBA, who was predicting earlier on no real drop in home prices, has now been exposed as not being very competent with their modelling, thanks to the fact that a few months ago they started to realise their models perhaps weren't telling them the truth. And in fact, Christopher Joy put this post up on one of the sites recently, also covered in a couple of areas. I actually made a show on this as well, because basically there's a RBA Freedom of Information disclosure that basically showed that the RBA is now thinking that prices could actually have the biggest declines ever, rather than what they said earlier on, which was almost no impact of higher interest rates. So very interesting article, and a significant change in the weather for the RBA. I have a theory, Edwin, that this is one of the reasons why the RBA did 25 rather than 50 last time around, because they suddenly think, oh, hang on a moment, property prices are on the fall. And of course, if they do drop 20% or more, which is what they're saying, what that means is that those people with a 5% deposit are going to be in deep negative equity, and somebody's going to be on the hook for some of it.
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when one of these matters hits the courts, because at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself the question: who's the first mortgagee over this? It's got to be and who's I'm talking about the shared equity scheme with the federal government. So you got the federal government as being, I would say, the first mortgagee. The second would be, that's in my scenario. The second would be the state government. But then how is the loan structured? That's right. I guess what I'm trying to look at and what I'm trying to decipher is how, at the end of the day, how all this would be unravelled in the court of law, when these poor bastards go to have to sell under duress and under instructions from the mortgagee. I want to know who the first and the second. So there'll be a first, second, and third.
Yeah, what order? Yeah,
yeah, because it's a can of worms. Notwithstanding the what you mentioned about who's got the right to say as to what you can do, improvements and extensions, and what added inclusions you can have, what you can't have. It has got to be a freaking minefield.
Correct.
But in that article that you that we shared tonight, they brought out at the with Christopher Joy in Coolabah Capital there. The last page I found it really the second last page I found it really interesting. That section there that I highlighted. The finding implied a somewhat larger picture declines in prices of circa 30 to 40%. What are your what do you call it, your scenarios? Which one was that at 30-40%?
Well, that would be pretty much so I run three, right? Sort of my best case, which is now blown out the water because, of course, the inflation rate's going to be a lot higher for longer. There's no wages growth and the interest rates will stay lower. So that's pretty much blown out. The base case would be around 20 to 22, which is roughly what they was, and my worst case would be closer to 30 to 40 on average. Of course, some areas even more. So I did a show today looking at inner Western Sydney, and the worst case scenarios there were actually above 50% falls, simply because of where the markets were. So it is very interesting that they're slowly falling into line with my different scenarios.
Yeah, look, but the thing is, it's something that a lot of the mainstream have basically been neglecting to really report on, and apart from the fact that they've been paid by the building industry and other parties that have got vested interests. I mean, they can't really talk about it until people such as Christopher Joy start bringing this out, and then obviously then they start reaching out to people like yourself to get a further commentary. Notwithstanding the fact that you've been there all along, and we've been talking about this for how long, in the other participants on the FA. But then again, a lot of people like the chicken more than the $100. We come back to that, to the winning prize, Martin. It's the chicken. Everybody wants a chicken.
Everybody wants a chicken, and they don't want to pay much for it. But the other interesting question, Edwin, is because quite a few of the mainstream economists have tended to parrot what the RBA said, right? I'll be interested to see whether they now actually take on the RBA's latest forecast, which is 20%, 22% as a sort of a minimum, and risk for more downside. It'll be very interesting to see when any of them come out with that, or whether they will still stick to their nothing to see here, just get a loan, it's all fine. Bearing in mind, of course, that mortgage rates have gone from sub 2% to maybe as much as 6%, will be ahead. And the forward expectation from the markets with regard to where the cash rate's going to be, it's going to be 4.3% through into 2024, right? And inflation is probably going to be knocking on 7.5% to 8% and stay there right the way through to 2024 and then start to come down. So these are huge moves. A lot of people, I think, are going to be very much out of position now because of these changes. The question for me will be, whether the Reserve Bank then says, "Oh, hang on a moment, we can't allow house prices to fall any further. So do we try and pull the rates, and don't lift them hard?" But of course, they have to deal with the inflationary pressures, because that's going to crush everybody if they don't deal with it. So we've been backed into a corner due to this really, really bad policy for years and years and years, and only now, finally, is some of this coming out of the woodwork. Unfortunately, a lot of people will be trapped in properties that they probably can't afford now, watching the value of that property go down while the mortgage rates go up. No wonder we're going to have difficulty ahead.
Look, and this is the thing that's not discussed with the mainstream, with the inflationary pressures that people are going to be facing. In order to keep a lifestyle, they're going to be going without, in many cases, food. They're going to be cutting holidays, obviously recreational and sporting, children's sports. They're going to be cutting. What I am seeing, and we get a lot of chatter on, is how a lot of the Asian community are starting to take their children out of private schools,
yep,
and going back into public schools. And this is, to a lot of people, it may not mean anything. You may think, oh, well, so what? But to them, it means a hell of a lot. It's losing face, and so, and also in other communities, such as your Lebanese communities as well. So I'm hearing all this chatter from friends, relatives, neighbours, the whole bit, the chatterers and so forth, and what's going on. Then you and I mean, I've been talking about and doing, sharing tips on find yourself a side hustle. I mean, housewives in the eastern suburbs, they've got a great little side hustle of selling drugs. The crime rate has increased phenomenally over there, because we talk to, I've got friends that are criminal lawyers, they were ex public prosecutors, or they work for the DPP, and now they're private lawyers, in their own right, and they specialise in criminal law. And the thing is, the stories that they tell us, it's just mind-boggling. So, so when you talk about side hustles of, selling recreational drugs, because in order to maintain, it stems from a lot of the people in these areas, and I'm talking about the eastern suburbs. They're using these recreational drugs in order to maintain a level of calmness for themselves, because they're under financial pressure. But in order to keep that habit and not disclose it to their partners, well, they have to have a side hustle in order to make their money. It's incredible, the stuff that's going on out there. This is what's overlooked, and this is the decay, or what I see is the decay of society overall, by trying to keep the property prices so much inflated that it's creating other endemic or other forms of chaos in the family unit, and in society, that it's eating itself from the inside out. And it's I know sometimes share this in jest, but when you start really reflecting on it and you start hearing this, so it is so depressing. Somewhat depressing, and it's
the point is, Edwin, that it's not just a financial issue, right? It is a social issue. It's a societal issue, right? And what that basically means is that we're laying the seeds for significant trouble down the road. And it's interesting because I made a post yesterday. In fact, for various reasons, I had lots of erroneous phone calls from a debt collector over the last 2 or 3 months, relating to Jill's death and the fact that her mobile phone plan was still running, but she, of course, was not paying the bills because she was no longer using the phone and, in fact, no longer alive. But they kept chasing me, and I had phone call after phone call after phone call, 3 times a day, right? And that's just one example, right, of how this gets out of hand, right? Now, ultimately, I managed to solve it by taking certain measures. But the point is, we're going to see people really under the gun here, right, as the debt pressures and the social pressures and everything else just bubble up. So this is way more than just a financial issue, and it's been created by many years of bad policy, as we've said so many times, and even the pussycat agrees.
Yeah, it's crazy, but this is the whole thing. This is the pressure that just fosters, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then when it starts to really implode and explode, it's too late. It's somewhat too late. But unfortunately, it's this whole ideas, Martin, of the craziness and the crazy world that we live in, and how society over the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, has really been corralled to believe that the end game is it's okay to be immensely in debt, and it's okay to be without food as long as you're in debt and you own investment properties.
Yep.
And politicians are able to say that. People in power are able to say that because their wages and their salaries and their packages are secure. But ours isn't, and the small business operators, theirs aren't. But yet, all this. But it's a crazy world, man.
No, it is crazy, absolutely. And as you say, the politicians completely insulated from it. They really have no idea at all. And when I raise some of these issues with some of the politicians that I speak with, they look as though I'm talking, just nonsense, because they're not close enough to see on the ground what's really happening, and that's a problem. That's one of the reasons why my mortgage stress stuff is so important now, because we're really getting to the pointy end here. And when I look at my granular analysis, I can show where people are spending half of their disposable income just on trying to keep somewhere to live, right? And we all can see from our surveys that people are actually having to cut back on medical treatment and food and those sorts of things. You say to take kids out of school, just trying to make ends meet. And just remind everybody, the cash rates that have already been implemented haven't yet trickled through to the mortgage rates for those on variable rates. It's going to be another month or two before they hit. So that they can see this trajectory. And now the budget tomorrow will just, again, highlight the fact that interest rates will have to stay higher for longer. Inflation is going to be higher. Wages growth is going to be lower. Overall growth in the economy is going to be lower. So this is a very, very unfortunate situation that's been created, and there's no quick way out. I suspect we're going to see more properties listed, though, because people are going to get to the point where they can't do anything but try and sell their property.
Well, that's right, and that's going to be and this is the thing. This is where it displaces homes, it displaces families from their principal places of residence, and it's going to be by choice. More than being forced upon by the banks, because it's not the banks that are generally going to be chasing the people, but it's going to be other creditors, like you said, your phone, leases on vehicles, other leases on machinery and everything else, and if the properties are cross collateralized with business operations, or you've got private loans and so forth. That's really what puts more pressure in these situations than the banks. But look, what we're seeing over the last couple of weeks, is we're starting to see what we should have been witnessing at the beginning of spring, which was almost 5 weeks ago. We should have been witnessing this, and that is a steady growth in listing numbers, Martin, which is positive for the people that are looking at buying, because they're going to be getting more choice. The only thing at the moment that's the ones that are lingering on market, the ones that aren't getting their expectations, are obviously properties that need a bit of work. But look, from a buyer's point of view, that could represent the better choice. Yes, there is a bit of pressure with supply chain issues, with labour. But if you're connected, or if you reach out, we can put you in connection with people that can help. And those properties translate into being perhaps a better choice. There was one sale in Winston Hills of a property that got bought for 1,565,000 in 2021, mid 2021, and the same agent just sold it over the weekend. Power put it up on his Twitter that we've been following. He and I have been following, and he got sold on Saturday for 1,225,000. Why? Because it had some sub floor issues, but it could have been mitigated if they got somebody to help them out in the system with it, and that could have either kept the property or could have got. I'm sure they would have been able to get a much better value for price for that property than that huge loss that they incurred in under 12 months. But anyway, we're seeing numbers come up in Sydney. I think we're going to see a lot more, over the next 3 weeks. So in comparison to last week or the beginning of spring, we're tracking back to where we were through winter. The auction numbers for Sydney have again risen, so that there's a bit more confidence, there's a bit more buzz in the market. So and the agents are sharing that buzz, sharing that confidence with their clients, and therefore the more people are more keen to take the properties to auction, but still short of where we were last year. Interestingly, Martin, Melbourne are going hell for leather. They're on fire with listings. They are. There's a lot of transactions going on in Melbourne, but at the same time, there's a hell of a lot more property replacing the ones that are being sold. So that's keep an eye on the Melbourne numbers, because potentially that we could get to 30,000 before we get to 24,000 in Sydney. So it's rather interesting to see the dynamics of what's playing out in Melbourne. And the Brisbane region, steady as she goes, similar to Sydney, rising in for sale listing numbers, but nothing to write home about.
No, it is interesting, Edwin, and I keep looking at Brisbane, and in fact, Brisbane prices are falling faster than Sydney and Melbourne at the moment. But selectively in areas of Sydney now, we're seeing quite significant falls. And as I said earlier on, the inner west is looking particularly shaky at the moment, and we've seen quite a few significant drops in prices that were, in the 2 to 3 million range, dropping back quite considerably and a bit below. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this. But Brisbane is my marked card for what I think will be the most significant falls over the next 3 months or so, simply because there are so many more people looking to try and sell the property. And interestingly, the other factor that's fascinating is that a lot of the properties in the Brisbane area that are coming on the market are investment properties that they can't now actually make a return on. So very, 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 very interesting to see what's going on.
Yeah, look, and this is why we're now pegging the numbers for those regions and see how they track over the next month or two. But look, the numbers tell a big story. Obviously, in correlation with everything else that's happening out there in the wider world of the economic world, micro, macro, local, and global. So it's all impacting, and also interesting to see how the governments are jousting for position to keep on staking the market or trying to push those mattresses to cushion the pools. It's interesting to see the shenanigans that they get up to as well.
Absolutely. We're going to see some more of that, I'm sure. But of course, we should now come on to what is wackier than a conspiracy theory. And boy, we got a juicy one today.
Look, it is. I told the viewers I will go out there hunting for the makeshift what would you call boarding houses. So I got this, and this is a house in the North Shore, and this is actually part of the lounge room that's being cut in half. And that's on the left-hand side. You see that small area there. That's actually that's going to be a bathroom introduced to that section of the lounge room. and that's a shower on the shower waste on the floor there, and also to the left you see those two pipes going up. That's for the vanity, and the toilet on the far left of that picture. So that's an ensuite. So they're going to cut the lounge room in half, and a person will be able to live there. And these are the type of rooms that would rent for approximately $400 a week, because on the right-hand side, if you see that section on the right-hand side to the end of the window, that's big enough there to introduce a very small kitchenette slash laundry, have a front-end loader, washing machine, dryer at the bottom of the bench. So this is it. This is one, and there's a lot more. There's a lot more coming. But wait, we've got more for our followers and our viewers. We've got an actual story from one of our followers, and it's rather interesting. It basically outlines how a young student is paying 4 bedrooms, $350 to $400 per week to share a room in the eastern suburbs. This is not a room. This is to share a room with basically a curtain partitioning the room, and she shares it with another male student. I mean, you can read the full story there as to what our viewers send, and it's rather an eye-opener, Martin.
No, it is scary, Edwin, and when you read it, you realise just the shitty lifestyle that people end up living in, right, with no choice, no options. No wonder they're close to tears. And of course, it's all driven partly by need to get visas and those sorts of things. Also, of course, just price point and no other choice.
No, and look, the 2 points that really jumped out there. This is the garage, and this is the garage in the same house, right? Yep. The garage has been divided with screens to have 2 people living in it. These are your makeshift granny flats. A garage. This is criminal. It is absolutely criminal. And the second part that I highlighted there, Martin, is a Korean student that has come in, and our follower writes that this student has come in disguised as a studying. However, intentions is to buy 3 properties in 4 months, predominantly apartments in the city or houses by the beach. This is a student that's come in from, I believe, from Korea. Now, don't forget, where was Dom, our premier, a month or so ago? Wasn't he touring South Korea, India, Japan?
What are you suggesting, Edwin? What are you suggesting?
Look, we said it. We called it.
Yeah. Australia's open. Come on down.
That's it. Come on down. It's crazy. This is the craziness. Yeah. It's crazier than a conspiracy, because it's actually happening, and it's actually being allowed to happen. What I'm going to try and do is this follower of ours is reached out and has given me a little bit more of a brief on what's going on, and has asked for my help, and I will be helping this lass because it's actually criminal what's being allowed to happen. And look, in the meantime, our follower is also trying to help this lass, trying to get accommodation elsewhere, because the newcomers into the country, they don't really know what to do, how to approach things. The last conversation with her was that she looked at some of the share accommodation, except they wanted something like $1,200 a week or something or other to have the whole. I would imagine the main bedroom with an ensuite. That's insane. But then again, this is how you break the rental cycles in properties, and unfortunately, this is what the WeChat chatterers are doing. And how long have I been saying? Look, this is out there. It should really be policed. I share it so that our followers and our viewers can be informed. But this is what they're doing, and this is what, in a way, it's going to, as I've said, it will cushion the falls in certain parts of Sydney. Not all parts will be protected like this, because it's not the appetite to, not all suburbs in Sydney cater for this type of dwellings. for various reasons. But the WeChat chatters seem to know and understand where to do it, where to buy, and how to do it, and stay under the radar.
Yeah, no, it's not positive, and it's very, very concerning. I did notice in the description there, the other room, there was an Aussie drunk, and I was thinking, well, that's appropriate, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder what his side hustle is to be able to pay 300. I'm sure. Look, if they're paying on average 350 a week, the Aussie drunk must be paying at least 600-700 for to have a room by himself, because nobody else is going to want to share it with him.
No, exactly right. But no, you make a very important point. And look, a lot of the authorities look the other way because they're not actually wanting to tackle this, but it needs to be tackled. And I guess if we can get other stories that we can share. So if you're watching this and you know other examples where accommodation is being sliced and diced and people are being exploited, well, let us know, and we can cast a bit of light. We don't have to share names and things, but it certainly helps to underscore the criticality that we've got here, and from a social justice perspective, from a human perspective, and from an economic perspective, this just isn't fair and isn't right.
No, but look, unfortunately, Jose is all excited because he's thinking corn cobs and all sorts of goodies once his penthouse Truckman is
it suddenly looks a lot more attractive. All right, well, let's move on then to last item tonight, and you've got a very important conversation about some special terms and conditions.
Look, the tip of the week, as I share what usually happens during the week, and in this case, it's just a reminder of and a point and a tip. Look, you can include any special condition in an agency selling agency agreement or a property management agreement. In other words, you instruct the agent or the property manager how you want the property to be looked after, how you want the property to be marketed, and as long as it's within the law and you're not asking the agent to break the law, you can include anything in there. In this case, for this particular client, we told them, look, include this, and because she's very concerned as to how agents promote the property by underquoting, and she's she's of ethical standard, great character, and I think and so we just quickly put this out and got the agent to put it on the agency agreement. Not only did we can you control the period of the in the terms of the agreement, but you can also control the period, and that is, we're giving the agent a 6-week, exclusive agency agreement. They will try to get you to sign a 3-month or a 12-week exclusive agency agreement. But if they're not performing well, why should you keep them any longer than that? And within that period of time, they should be able to do the job. More to the fact that the property is going to auction anyway. So this is something there. So you can, as long as it stays within the law, you should be able to put and include any special condition that you deem to be fair and equitable, and and that you're going to feel comfortable with and at peace with, because of your nature, be it the what you want to do, whether you if you don't sell, you want to know quickly whether or not you're going to achieve the sale price. And is it a choice whether you're going to stay longer on the market or put it in the market for rental, all those sort of things. So you need to instruct the agent from the beginning, not after you've signed the agency agreement, but before signing the agency agreement. And if they're not willing to do it, go find another agent that is willing to do it and is able to follow your instructions.
Absolutely, and it's just worth underscoring, of course, it's a contract, so it's a legal document once it's signed. But as with any legal document, you have every right to read it, make sure you understand it, read the small print, and as you say, you can make changes and alterations providing that both parties agree, and often you have to initial it where you've made changes if the case. But it is important because you've got to make sure you protect yourself and don't just roll over and accept whatever the selling agent gives you, because of course those contracts are always skewed to the benefit of the agent, and that's a problem, isn't it?
Well, that's right, and in the agency agreement also stipulate the the marketing fees that they're asking. Stipulate that you wanted that you wanted itemized, and that the money that you give them up front, if you're going to be giving money up front for the marketing campaign, that you want it to be placed in the trust account, not in the general account, and you want a running tally or trust receipts of how the money was used, because it is against it unless it's disclosed by the agent that they're going to add onto the prices that are being charged by the service provider. They're not allowed to charge more than what the service provider is charging the agent, which is something that's overlooked in 99.999% of agency agreements, unfortunately. And that's where a lot of agents make more money, particularly in these sort of situations, Martin, when it's not the first agent that generally sells the property, but the second agent.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I think that's a very important point that we've made before. Well, Edwin, as always, some really, really important points tonight. Thank you very much for the info that you've shared, and we'll do it all again next week. I'm sure there'll be more to talk about. I'm sure there'll be more schemes to get more buyers into the marketplace, and never mind the price, huh?
Yeah, and I'm planning on putting a fish pond at the back of my place as well. So if anybody wants to come up, and I'm not going to give chickens away, but I'll give away frogs.
Excellent. Well, there you go. You heard it here first. Edwin, thanks so much. See you next week. See ya.
Ciao.